All right, so welcome to our first class in JavaScript. We are supposed to start with this class last month, but due to some other things, so we couldn't start with the class. So today we are going to be talking about JavaScript. So what is JavaScript? What can you do with it? And how do you work with it? So we're going to start with that today. We have been creating our sites using HTML and CSS. Well, most of these sites we are working on, they are not interactive, so which means they don't know how to communicate with us, or they don't know how to interact with us there. For example, here now, opening this stuff back in mobile mode, we should have the menu there for us to be able to bring, as you can see here. So I should be able to click on this X to close this stuff that is pop out right now, and it's not supposed to open like this by default. Is when I click on the hamburger menu that is hidden behind this side, that's when it's supposed to open, and when I click on this X, it's supposed to go. But right now, all these elements don't know how to interact with us, or they don't really know what to do because there is no JavaScript. So in order for you to add interaction to your page, you need JavaScript in order for that to work. And that's the reason why we're going to be starting with the JavaScript class, so that we can combine the three languages together and be able to create whatever we want on the browser there. So with the help of these three languages there, you can create any website you can think of there like that. So HTML is a structure. The CSS, you can think of it as the clothes, or you can think of HTML as the bone, and the CSS as the skin. Then the JavaScript, which now connects everything together, that can make your hand to go up and down, shake, move from left to right, and so forth like that. So that's what the JavaScript is to the HTML and the CSS are there. And as you can see, JavaScript is home of headache and serious thinking, because here the way things works, you have to do some stuff, but this is just a joke. But still, JavaScript is not like HTML that a plus b is all, or 1 plus 2 is always 3. Here you can do things in different way, and that's the reason why it normally looks as if the thing is really hard. It's not that hard. It's because here you can achieve the same results in different ways, just like your CSS, that you have different selectors to select a single element. Here too, there are things you want to do that you can achieve in different ways there like that. Just what I just mentioned now, which is the JavaScript. So JavaScript is a scripting language that we use to manipulate and interact with the content on the page. So when you want your element to interact with the user, you need JavaScript. And when you want to manipulate the content on the page, you need JavaScript. And what do you mean by manipulation? You are going to be seeing all this in later on. For example, here I have welcome to JavaScript. But from JavaScript, the content that is coming from HTML, I can change it to another content there like that. For example, like this side now, going back to this side, you're going to see that there's some stuff that is not showing right now. But with the help of JavaScript, they can interact with you, or those elements can come outside when you need them at a particular time. For example, like this button here, there is something that is there. When you click on it, that is going to pop out, and it's always going to pop out when you click on it there. So if I click on it now, as you can see, this stuff is going to pop out, and if I click on it again, then it's going to go back to wherever it is before. This is what we call manipulation here. You are manipulating the content that you have on the page, or you are changing them. The same thing here too with JavaScript. If I click on this in, as you can see, what is showing before is no longer showing, and the image that is here is different. As you can see, the image is changing based on whether this thing is opened or not. So this is manipulation here. You are manipulating the content, and in order for you to do this, you need JavaScript. The same thing here too. As you can see, this pointer here, since this stuff is open, it's pointing up. But if I click on it again and it's not open, you see that it's now pointing down. This is another manipulation going on this side. So you can manipulate the content. Whatever you have your HTML before, you can change it to another thing that you want through JavaScript based on what the user is doing on the page. So the action here is when you click, it will open if it is not open before, and if it's already open, then it's going to close it. Another thing that is here is that this arrow is pointing up or down based on whether the stuff is open or not. The same thing here too, whether this thing is open or not, the image here is going to change. So if it is open, it is showing this arrow down, and if I click on it to close, you see that it changes the icon from what is there before to another thing. And you can do a lot of things you want based on what you are trying to achieve on the page there. This is just a sample or example of what you can use JavaScript to do on your page. And in order for you to be able to do all this, you need to know some of the constructs or some of the basic constructs we have in JavaScript there, like that. And before we get to constructs, the first thing we need to do is to know how to add JavaScript to our page. Just like your CSS, you need to know how to add it to the HTML page. The same thing here too. When you want to work with JavaScript, you need to know how you can add it to your HTML page. And here too, just like the CSS, we have the internal and we have the external JavaScript. So internal, it means you are putting everything inside your HTML, while external means it's coming from online or links that you connect to, which can be online or it can still be in your project folder there, but it's going to come from its own file. That's just the external. You have a separate file where you are managing your JavaScript code, and you can now connect it to the HTML file. That is external. But internal, you have everything inside your HTML code. But how do you do that? So let's go back into the code, which is what we have on the page. So all this content is what I have here. And how do we now include JavaScript on our page? So to include JavaScript on your page, you can put it anywhere you want, but these are the common places that we normally place JavaScript there. One place is inside the head, just like the CSS that you can create your style, the IDs, and you put whatever CSS you want under it. So you can put your CSS here. The same thing too, when you want to create JavaScript or when you want to do anything related to JavaScript, we have a tag that you need to use, which is known as script. So whatever you put inside this script is all about JavaScript. Everything you have inside this tag is all about JavaScript. And what are you going to be putting there? That's what this construct is going to come in like that. So we are going to be talking about different stuff that you can do or that you need to know about JavaScript before you can start manipulating the content on the page, because these are the things you are going to be combining together in order for you to be able to manipulate the content on the screen. So we're not just going to jump into manipulation. If you just jump like that, so you will not know what is this, what is variables, what is operators, and so forth like that. You just see me using them, but you will not have the full understanding of what is going on there. And that's the reason why we need to talk about all these basic stuff first before we now moving into the part that we're going to be manipulating the content on the page. But before we start manipulating the content, you have to know from this number 1 all the way to this number 7 first, but they are the basic stuff you need to know before you start changing anything on the screen like that. So, and in order for us to see all this in action, we need to connect our JavaScript. And one of the way of connecting JavaScript is by using internal, so which means your JavaScript is inside the HTML file. And here now, whatever you want to do or whatever JavaScript you want to do is going to be in between this opening and the closing tag of script. And this is one place that you are going to be putting your JavaScript. But we are not going to be placing it in the head like this. There is reason why for that, but for now, I'm not going to talk about it. For it to come in later on when we are talking about advanced stuff, or if talks really get there, I might really bring it out. But for now, we don't need to talk about it, because when you are working with a large project later on, or when you want to be dealing with content here, the way the browser interprets the content on the page will not allow you to be able to get the content that is here. And that's the reason why we normally place the stuff before the closing body. So when you want to work with it, you always place it before the closing body. You can put it here too, and you can tell it to be able to attach something here, but we're not going to be using that because you want to be able to support different browser. You know, it's not almost all the new browser these days. You can put it at the top and you put the correct attribute here and it will work. But don't forget, it's not everybody that is going to visit your site that will be using latest browser. Some of them might still be using old browser. So in order for this thing to be supported everywhere, that's why we normally place it at the bottom side here before the closing body. And since you are placing it down here before every other content, so it means the JavaScript here, we have access to everything before it. So the script that is here, we have access to everything, all your content that is coming before it. Because these are the content you are going to be manipulating later on. And in order for you to manipulate them, JavaScript must already, the browser must have already rendered them on the page before you start manipulating the content. But if you look at the script here, you see that this script, the browser is going to see it first before seeing the content. So which can cause some problem when you don't do this script properly. And that's the reason why you should always place it at the bottom side, so that by the time the browser gets here, the browser already put all this content on the screen, and from this side now we can manipulate any of the content we already have here. So the script can either be placed inside the head or can be placed anywhere in the body, but normally we used to place it before the closing tag, before the closing body tag here. So it's always going to be the last one after all the content that you want to manipulate later on there, like that. So inside this script, this is where you'll be performing any JavaScript code that you want. For example, here now, I just want to use this console.log. I will explain it better soon. But right now, let me just save the code, and let me save the code and go back to the screen like that. You might be saying, okay, where's the stuff that I just did now? Nothing like that on the page. Why? Because this console that I have here is not talking about the content on the page. Now, I told you we are not going to be manipulating the content right now. The first thing you want to do is to know about all this first in JavaScript before you start manipulating the content. But in order for us to see the results, we need to use this console, because the browser call with console, and that console here, we can send the message to it. So the browser console, we can send the message to it. And what type of message are you sending? We have log message. There's another type too that you can use. For example, console.error. So this one is going to send error message there. So this is going to send error message. Another one that we have here is warning message. So we have another one which is warning like that. So this one is going to send warning message to the browser console. So from your code, you can send message to the browser console. And what type of message are you sending? We have normal message, which is log, which is what I'm always going to be using. This error is how to send the error message to the browser console, while this one is how to send the warning message to the browser console. I'm not going to be using these last two. What I always be using is this one for you to see the results of what you are doing from our code. But right now, none of this stuff are showing on the browser. I told you they are not going to appear on the page. They are going to appear on the browser console. But how do you see the browser console? That's where the DevTools comes in. So the DevTools, if you remember, that's where we can check what is going on behind the scene in our code. And as you can see, we have the elements here, but that's not the only thing that we have. As you can see, there is console. And this is where you are going to see all the message you are sending from your code using this console. So whatever you are doing with the console on your browser, this is where you are going to see them. And as you can see, this is the normal message that was sent. This is the error message, and this is the warning message. As you can see, each one of them come with their own color. So error is always like this, but I will not be using it. It's going to be coming from JavaScript itself. Anytime we do something that it doesn't understand, this is how the error is going to come outside. Again, so if there is warning, this is how the message is going to come outside. But for the normal log, which is console.log, this is how the message is going to come outside there like that. So I will not be using all this one every time like that. What I will be using is just this console log, and you see that whatever message that I send from our page it's going to appear. And again too, this thing is going to tell you the file where it's coming from and the line where it's coming from, because these things are very important later on, because you are going to be having different scripts or different JavaScript file later on, or these things are going to be coming from different places. So how do you know where the problem is coming from, or where this your log is coming from? It's going to tell you the file where the stuff is coming from, and after the colon, that's a line where the stuff is coming from. And if you look at it, we have line 265, and that's the same thing is telling us here, that this console logo, it's coming from index.html on line 265. So there's a file which is index.html, and the actual message that we are printing out now in the console, it's coming from this line 265 there, like that. So whatever you be doing here is all about JavaScript. For example, here too, I can just do 2 plus 2 like this, and once I send it to the console, you see that we are going to get as you can see, we are getting the correct value. Even though what I type here is 2 plus 2, but it's giving me 4 here. The same thing that I just did now, I'm going to do it another way, and you see that we are going to be seeing different stuff. And that's the reason, these are the reason why we need to talk about construct here. What does this thing mean here? What does this one mean? Why is this one outputting like this and this one is not doing the same thing? That's the reason why we need to do construct. As you can see, this one, the way it's coming out is different from the way this one is coming out. But to you, they might look the same, but technically they are not the same. And that's the reason why we need to talk about construct in JavaScript. So that's the reason why you need to know what is data type, what is variable, what is operator, what is this branching and looping, what is function, what is array, what is object. Then once we are done with this basic stuff, then we now move gradually into the manipulation of the content on the page, because everything that I'm going to be using here is what is just coming from this side. It's just the combination of everything that we have at the top here, like that. And that's the reason why you need to know about all this basic stuff first before you start changing stuff, because now why is this one giving 4 and this one is not giving 4? So I'm going to explain that under this data type. As you can see here, we have different type of value. We have number, what is string, what is boolean, what is not, what is undefined. You are going to know about them today, and after that you know the reason why this one is like this, and this one is outputting 4 and this one is not outputting 4 out there like that. So this is how you can connect to JavaScript. Whatever you have under this script tag is all about JavaScript. It's not HTML again. You can't be doing HTML here. This is wrong. So this is wrong. If you do something like this, it will think you are doing JavaScript and it's going to give you error. So like that. So this is not, you are not supposed to be doing something like this where you are inside script. What you'll be doing here is all about JavaScript like that. And this one is crazy, as you can see. Can you see? So JavaScript is not like HTML that is going to forgive you. If you do anything you are not supposed to do, what you are going to get is error. And again, can you see? It's telling us that there's an error on line 268. So if there's any error, it will output it out using the console error there like that, and it's going to tell you the line where the error is coming or where is detecting the error. This one might not be actually the line that there is error, but this is the line is detecting the error. So anytime there's an error, just know that the error occur before that line or up to that line. So whatever error that is going to occur, just check this line and above, not below. So because sometimes the arrangement might not be on that same line, where the error is actually coming from might not be on that line, but that's the line is detecting the error, because sometimes you can move things to a different line. So because you can move things to a different line, it's going to pick the error from the last line there like that. So the error is always from this line and above, not below this number that is giving you. So in case you have error later on, which is something you cannot escape from, you always have error as long as you are doing something real. So you always have error. So and this thing is going to output the error message for you here, and from there you just need to look at the file, then which line is it coming from. You check from that line and above. Starting from that line, you check if the error is on that line, then you are good. But if not on that line, you check above the line, not below that particular line. And as you can see, the error now, it said it's coming from line 268, which is right because I'm imputing HTML code inside the JavaScript code, which is not right, or this is not the way we do it. You're going to see how to do it later on like that. So I just need to remove it so that we don't have error again. And once I go back to the page, as you can see, everything is not showing. No, before, when there is error, it was not showing. That's the thing about JavaScript. Once there is any silly error that you have, or you have any error like this, the line is detecting error, it will stop. If the error that it can see output on some stuff before that line, is going to do them. But if it's an error that it cannot even do anything, just like what just happened now, you will not even see any result at all. It will just tell you that there is error, go and fix that error. Until you fix that error, that's when it's going to continue with your program. It's not like the HTML that because one place is not arranged properly, other one will not come out. It's not like the CSS that maybe you have problem with one selector, it will not be affecting other one. No. But yeah, once there is any error, it will stop on that line and you have to fix it before it continue with any other thing. And that's why I said yeah, home of headache and thinking, because you need to do your things properly. You don't do things anyhow when you're dealing with JavaScript. This is a proper language. This is one of the proper programming language that we're going to be working with there like that. So HTML is structural language and the CSS is for styling, while JavaScript is a proper programming language. And you have to do things the way you are supposed to. If you don't do them, or if you don't follow the way you are supposed to, then it's not going to work. And you're going to get error, and you must fix the error before it will continue with whatever you are doing in your scripts there like that. So this is how to include JavaScript code when you are dealing with internal JavaScript. So when you want to put everything inside the HTML code, this is how you do it. So you type the script tag, and inside the script tag, you do whatever JavaScript code that you want to do. But we're not going to be using that method because we don't want to cluster our HTML file. So we're going to put it in its own file. As you can see here, I have a file here, which is this add.js. So to create a JavaScript file, you name it whatever you want, but it's going to end with .js here. So for the HTML, as you can see, that it's ending with .html. For the CSS, it's ending with .css. For JavaScript, it's always going to end with .js for now. But we have some other extension later on when you're dealing with a framework. But for now, it's going to be JS. And whatever you're going to be doing here is all about JavaScript. You don't need to do any HTML, whatever stuff here. You don't even need to put any script because everything you'll be doing here, we already know that it is JavaScript. So there's no need for you putting any script here. What you just need to do is to start putting whatever JavaScript code you want to run. So welcome to JavaScript like this from external file like that. So save, and again to go back to the HTML, save the code to like that. And once the two of them are saved, this one is not saved yet. So once the two of them are saved, you go back to your page, and as you can see, we are not seeing anything. Why? Don't forget, we are not doing anything again inside the HTML. And just because you create your JavaScript file doesn't mean the HTML will just pick it directly like that. No, just because they are together doesn't mean HTML will just pick anything anyhow. So you need to connect them together, just like the way you connect your CSS by using the link here to link to the CSS file. So here too, you need to connect to your JavaScript file or whatever is coming from there. And you see the same script we are going to be using, but instead of just putting normal script, we need to give it this attribute. And this attribute source is what you are going to use to pass the location of the file that you want to connect to. It can be coming from, or it can come from online, or it's something you already have in your project folder. And since they are together, I just need to mention the name of the file along with the extension, which is what we've talked about before, linking. No, we have different type of linking. So since they are together, just the name of the file and along with the extension of the file. So this is what we call external JavaScript here. So this one now is external JavaScript. So this is known as external JavaScript like this. So whatever you want to be doing here is always going to come from this file. So whatever you be doing with this script is always going to come from the file. It will not even use anything here. So this one will not work. If you try to put anything in between it, it will not work. So like that. So when you're dealing with external, whatever you want to do have to be inside that file. Not that you do it inside and inside the file. So this one will not work. So will not work. So if you want to put something in between the script, then you have to do it like this without the source. If there is no source, it's going to use whatever you have in between the script. But when there is source like this, it will not do anything in between again. It will only perform whatever you have inside this source there like that. So once I save this stuff and go back to the page, it's going to connect the two of them together. And once they are connected, as you can see, it's only printing out the one that is coming from, as you can see, app.js. So it's telling us that this message is coming from app.js on line 1. And if you go back there and check the file, you see that on line 1, we have that console log there like that. You can use the two of them together, but they have to be separate. So if I want to do this one too, I just need to put it in its own script. So this one is one script, and the one for the external is going to be another script. You can't put the two of them together in one script. It will not work. As you can see that this one is not coming out on the console. Whatever you are doing here, it will not work as long as you have source there. But if you don't have the source there, then it's going to work as expected here. So if I save this in, as you can see, it's telling us that this one is coming from index.html on line 265, while this one is coming from app.js on line 1. So if it doesn't have the script tag, whatever you put in between it, it's going to work with it. But once there is a source, you can't put anything in between again. All this one is just useless like that. So which means whatever it's going to do here, it will be coming from whatever you pass into the src, which is the source like that. But I will not be using this one. This one is just to showcase that you can do everything from your HTML file. But everything we're going to be doing, it's going to come from this side. So whatever we're going to be talking about, all of them are going to come from this file like that. So in JavaScript, this is your first programming language. HTML is structural language. You are just describing the structure. CSS is for styling, while JavaScript is a scripting language, a proper programming language that you can use to add interaction to your page and manipulate the content on the page there like that. And before you start manipulating any content on the page, we need to know about basic construct in JavaScript there. And some of the basic construct we have here is data type, which I'll be explaining soon. Again, if there is time, we're going to get into the variables there like that. Or if I get to the variable, I might actually move to the operators there. Then in the next class, I will now moving into variable like that. And before I jump into them, there is something that is missing there, which is comments. So comments in JavaScript. Now we have this in our HTML, we have it in the CSS, and at the same time we have it in JavaScript. So HTML and CSS borrowed everything from JavaScript like that. Most especially the CSS. You know, in CSS, if you don't want anything to show on the page, or you want to leave a comment for yourself, you can add a comment. And you know, for you to add a comment in CSS there like that, you can just say, okay, comment. So this is a comment in CSS, and I can create a comment like this. So this is a comment in CSS. So it's just like the way you can comment in CSS, we have it in HTML. So at the top here, if I want to do anything, for example, I have this H1 testing, but I don't want this thing to show, I can convert it to comment, or I can just leave a note for myself. So to create a comment in HTML there like that, so this is a comment in HTML. So to create a comment in HTML, this is how we do it in HTML. To do it in CSS, this is how we create comments in CSS. But how do we do it in JavaScript? So we have two ways of creating comments in JavaScript. So in JavaScript, we have something known as inline comment, as you can see here. So this is what we call inline comment, and as you can see, I've used it down here. And that's the reason why you see that all these things, they are not showing outside, because I've converted them to comments. So inline comment means the comment you are creating is just one line. So this one means one line like that. So which means the comment will only affect this line. Once you go to another line, this is not comment again. So one inline comment means you just have that comment on one line or in that place that you want it to be. I can even put it in this place too, but I just said another comment. So anything that follows this double slash, those are the only thing that is going to be comment. Anything that is not following it or that is not after it, they are not comment. As you can see, he's not treating this one as comment, he's only treating what follows it as comment. There like that. To create comment in JavaScript, you can use inline comment, which is number 1 here. So we have inline comment, which means that comment will only take effect after this double slash that you have here. So whatever that come before the double slash, they are not comment, which is what I have here. But I need to comment everything out because I don't want JavaScript to bring an error. Because if you do anything that this thing doesn't understand, you get error straightforward. You can't do anything anyhow here. You have to do things properly. As you can see, you get error. Because now, as you can see, it's telling me on line 8, I'm doing something it doesn't understand like that. So apart from this, we have other type of comment, which is this block comment. And when you're talking about block comment, this one allows you to create comment for multiple lines. So this one allows you to create comment for multiple lines, and it's work like the CSS comment. So this is where the CSS copy their comment from. So the way you use to create comment in CSS, that's the same thing as what we call block comment here. And what is block? This one allows you to create comment on different lines. As you can see, this is how to start with the comment, and whatever you have here are always going to be comment until you close it back like this. Anything you have in between this and this, they are referred to as the block comment. It can be one line too if you want, it doesn't care, but whatever you have there, you have to open and close like this. So this is the opening of the comment, and this is the closing of the comment. So comments are from block on the one. I just lost my network right now, so let me oh, I just lost my what was that? Let me adjust the lights. Okay, let me pause. Yeah, so as I was saying, we have the comment. It can be like this, which is really useful when you have a comment that needs to be on multiple lines, and you can even use it for a single line. But most of the time, when you just have a simple comment that needs to be on a particular line, and after that line, that's the end of it, then you can use this one, which I'm going to be using this one a lot, like that, to comment out some stuff that I don't really need at that particular time. For example, like this one, I don't want it to show again because I want to be doing some other stuff. So, and I don't want to delete it here. I just comment it out so that it will be there as a reference. And in case I need it later on, I can just come back here, uncomment it, and it's going to start working back. But since I don't need it right now, so I'm going to comment it back so that I don't need to delete anything, but they are still not going to be showing on the screen. And once I save this one now, you see that that message is no longer coming out because it's seeing it as comment, it's not seeing it as code again. And once I activate it back by removing the comment, you see that it will start working again. So comment is really useful when you need to leave a note for yourself, or part of the code you are currently working on at that moment, you don't want to see it, or you don't want it to bother with what you are trying to do. You can quickly comment it out, and you will not see it again because the browser is going to treat it as just normal text, not part of your code that you want to execute like that. So that's just all about comment, and I'm going to be using it a lot there. As from this moment, for example, as you can see from here now, I want to talk about the data types like that. So this one again is still one line. Just because I put that second here doesn't mean before it can be told is when it's like this. You can see now it's complaining that I need to close it because I just opened, I did not close like that. So if you use double slash, it's going to treat it as a single line, but if you use the asterisk there, then it's going to treat it as this is another thing that I have here, an extension that is storing this. This is what called document this in here comment, but we don't need it right now. We are just dealing with the basic stuff. So under the data types here, we have number in JavaScript. Another thing that we have here is what is called string, and by default this is just text. but we don't call it text, we call it string. That's anything that you hear the word string, just know that we are talking about text there in the language. So string is just bunch of text coming together. But how do you represent it? So we're going to be seeing that one again. In JavaScript, we have a boolean like that. So we have this null and undefined. So these are the basic types that you need to know there. I see other one which is symbol. We have array, which is complex data type. We have object, which is another data type, but is a complex because it's using everything that we're going to be talking about here. They are composite. So array and object are composite types, which uses or combine everything that we have here together. And this is the reason why all these one are the basic that you need to know. Once you know about this, in those places, it will just be simple to you there like that. And in JavaScript, so when you're talking about number, so in JavaScript, when you're talking about number, so number can come in different form. So we have the base 2 like that. We have the base 8. We have the base 10, which is what we are going to be using, and we have the base 16. So these are different ways that we can represent number in JavaScript. But the major one that we're going to be using is base 10 here, which is what I'm going to start with before talking about the other one. And when you're talking about base 10, that's just your normal number. So 2 is 2, 5, you have 7, you have minus 3, you have 3.5, you have 10 like this, and so forth like that. You have 3, E4. But what is this E? I'm going to explain it soon like that. So this is number. So these are different ways of representing number in JavaScript. So these are different ways of representing a number in base 10 in JavaScript. For example, here like that. So let me just put everything in console directly, because you can do your JavaScript code directly from here, but it's quite easier to do from your JavaScript file compared to here when you want to do some complex stuff. But since this is just simple stuff, I'm just going to be doing it from there instead of me coming here to type console then .log.to like this. So me logging to is the same thing as just typing it directly from your console like that. So as you can see, we're going to receive the same thing. So if I press 2, you can see that we have the same results there like that. So any simple stuff, I will just quickly do them from here. But if it is complex, then I'm going to do it directly from the JavaScript file. But since this is simple stuff, so I'm going to do them directly from the console. You can quickly test your JavaScript directly from there, and it's going to work automatically like that. But for now, I'm going to be doing them here. So for example, here number are just normal number that you know. So when you type 2, 2 is 2, minus 3 is 3, 10 is 10, and so forth like that. 3.5 is still the same thing as 3.5 like that. So this is how we represent number in base 10 in JavaScript like that. But what about this E that I have there? So what about this 3E? So that E, in your normal mathematics there like that. So when you're dealing with normal mathematics, you are going to have something like 3 times 10 raised to power 4 like this. So but on your keyboard, there's no way you can type 10 raised to power 4. So that's what that E is representing. So E is representing this x10, your times 10 here. So whatever number you have after the E, that's the number you want to put at the top. Whatever number you have before the E, that's the number here. So when you're talking about this 3, so 3E4 like this is the same thing as you typing it on the paper by doing 3 times 10 raised to power 4. That's the same thing. So both of them are doing the same thing. So this is how we do it in the code. So the E is representing times 10. The number after it is representing the number on top of the 10, and the number before it is representing the number before the stuff. So this is how you add it, which is the scientific notification, but this is how we write it in the code like that. So 3 times 10 raised to power 4 is the same thing as this 3E4 like that. And as you can see, it has translated it to a proper this thing, because 10 raised to power 4 is just 0, 0, 0, 0, which is what you have there. So which is 10 raised to power 4, 10 times 10 times 10 in 4 places, and that's what is giving us all these 0, 0 here. Then multiply by 3, which is what you have by the side of it like that. So E 4 is the same thing as times 10 raised to power 4, like that. So this is how we represent number in JavaScript, but you can't do it with any other thing. If you just go and put any other number that it doesn't know about, for example, if I type 4R, as you can see, this will be error because this doesn't make sense. This is the only one that makes sense here, like that. The same thing too, if you don't do 3E like that and you press enter, as you can see, this is error too because we did not put the number that's supposed to be on top, like that. If I do 3E0 like that, as you can see, no, this is just normal mathematics. 10 raised to power 0 is just 1, and 1 times 3 is giving us back the 3 like that. But we are not here to do mathematics, we are here to do the normal coding there. So these are how you can represent number in base 10, like that. So when you want to represent number in base 10, just like the way you normally write them on paper, that is the same way you are going to do them, except this last one that we are using E to represent 10 raised to power whatever the number after that E. So that's base 10. But when you're talking about base 2, which you might not need right now, but it's something that I just want to show you in case you see it in your code or you see it in somebody else's code later on. So for base 2, we used to start with 0B, then followed by any 1010 whatever stuff. You know, base 2 is always a number between 0 and 1. So in order for you to represent binary here, you have to start with 0 followed by B, then followed by any binary number. If you just type it like this, it's error. So that thing must follow a binary number, and binary number is just 0 and 1. So here now I can have 0B 101 like this, and once I press enter, as you can see, it's giving us the result because this thing that we have here, this 101 is the same thing as 5 in base 10. 101 is the same thing as 5 in base 10, but you can't just type it like this because if you type it like this, it will think you are just dealing with base 10. When you type the number normally like this, it will think you are just doing base 10. So in order for it to translate it as base 2, it must start with 0B. So that's how JavaScript is going to know that, oh, whatever that follows it is all about base 2 that you are doing, like that. If I don't put 0B in front of it, it will just think it's just normal base 10 number that you are used to, like that. So once you see anything that started with 0B, that the next thing that follows it have to be 0 and 1. It can't be any other value. If you put any other thing that is not 0 and 1, you get error because there is no way you can have 7 8 in base 2. The highest number you can have in base 2 is 1. So, and the lowest you can have is just 0. So which is 0 and 1. And in order for you to represent binary number, it start with 0, not O. 0, then followed by B, then followed by whatever the binary number you are dealing with there, like that. In case you are dealing with anything related to binary number, this is how we represent the stuff like that. So for base 8, this is another thing that you need to be careful about because this one is closely related to base 10. The way you type it is just like you are doing base 10, but the result might actually be different based on whether that thing fall under base 8 or it fall under base 10. So when you're dealing with base 8, it always starts with 0, then followed by any number between 0 to 7. So when you have 0 that follow any number between 1, or let me just say 1 to 7 like this, is going to treat them as base 8. Just like this one where you have 0 like this, you have 0B, then followed by any number between 0 and 1 like this. This is binary, like that, where you can have something like 0B, 1010, and so forth like that. So here too, for base 8, anytime you start with 0 and whatever that follows it is not up to this in there, is not up to 8, is going to think you are dealing with base 8 there like that. So if I type 037, this is not 37, no, this is not 37. It will think you are working in base 8 like that. For example, if I just type 37, you are going to get back your 37 because you are dealing with base 10. But once you start with 0 like this, can you see the results? Is that giving us 31? So you might be thinking this thing is doing nonsense. It's not doing nonsense. It's because it's calculating this in base 8. And why is it calculating in base 8? It's because all the number that follow 0, they are not up to 8. 3 is not up to 8, 7 is not up to 8. As long all the number you have there is not up to 8, it will think you are dealing with base 8, which is the result. So 037 in base 10 or in base 10 is this. So this is it. This one now, it is base 8, not base 10. Once you start with 0, it will think whatever number that follows it is base 8 when those number are not up to 8. But if the number is more than or is up to 8 or 8 and above, then it will do the normal stuff for you, which is base 10. So if I use 08 now, as you can see, we are getting 38. So 38 in base 10 is it the same thing as you doing 038 like this. So you are going to get the same result because the number, one of the number is now above or equals to 8. Once the number as well, part of the number is greater or equals to 8, it will think is just your normal base 10 like that. But once the number you have there after 0 is not up to 8, it will not calculate in base 10. No, that number will be calculated in base 8. This is how it works in JavaScript. That's why I'm telling you now, so that when you do something later on like this and you are not using it in your code, it's not giving you 37, it's not giving you 31. Don't blame this thing that is doing nonsense. It's not doing nonsense, so it's because of what I'm explaining right now. And that's the reason why I'm telling you that you need to know about all these constructs, so that when you're using them later on and it's doing something for you, you will not be saying, why is this thing working like this? This is not the way it's supposed to work. It's because of what I'm explaining right now. So when you're dealing with number, it can come in different bases. You have base 10, you have base 2, you have base 8, and you have base 16. And to represent base 10, just type it the normal way you used to type on paper. To represent base 2, we don't do it like the way we do it on paper. You have to add 0b before it. On paper, what you just type is 10101. This is what you type on paper. But in the code, you have to add 0b first before it will treat it as a base 2. The same thing here for base 8 on paper. What you just write there is to write at 7, and under it you are going to add base 8. So people will know that, oh, this is base 8, oh, is not base 10. But yeah, to treat it as base 8, you just start with the 0. If the 0 is not starting with it, it will just think it's base 10 directly. Once it's not starting with 0, so once it's not starting with 0, it is just base 10 directly. But if you starting with 0, then it will just convert it to it will just think this thing is base 8 directly. As long the number, all the number you are putting after 0, they are not up to 8. So yeah, if I put 413 whatever stuff, as you can see, the result is different. Normally this is supposed to be 41,323, but here now it is 17,107. Why? Because it's thinking this stuff is in base 8. Once it start with 0 and all the number that follow that 0, they are not up to 8, not combining them together, each one of them, like any one of the number, and it's, as long as it's not greater or equals to 8, everything will be treated as a base 8 like that. Please, this thing is very important, because when you're using number later on and your number is starting with 0, just know that once it did not follow, if it's not greater than 8, it's going to treat it as this thing like that. So that's how this thing works, and you can't do any nonsense yeah like that. What I want to do in some other language, we have something like this that you can do, but yeah like that. So as you can see, so it's going to give us, so this is another way of representing the stuff. But normally if you have something like this, this is how it's going to work. Or you can do it, let me put this other one. We're not going to be using this base 8, but you just need to be careful about it when you are dealing with number later on that start with 0 and they are not up to this thing. So you can actually do it like this by using 0, then 0 like this, then followed by 1 to 7. It's still going to do the same thing. But JavaScript is crazy. It's going to convert this one for you automatically like that. So you need to be careful about the stuff what starts with 0. So even later on when you are converting, it will remove the 0 for you. But if you put the 0 yourself like this, if you put the 0 like this yourself, don't expect this stuff to give you 37. But later on you can convert from text into normal number, and it's going to remove the first 0 automatically. As you can see yeah, if I put 0, 39 or 38, as you can see, it has removed that first 0. You just return 38 because this 0 is just useless there like that when it is not in base 8 like that. The same thing too, even if it's in base 8, the 40 will always get removed. But don't forget, the calculation might be wrong. As you can see here, 34, normally we're supposed to be getting 34, but it's giving us 28. Why? Because it's thinking this stuff is in base 8, like that. So you need to be careful about it when you're dealing with your base 10 and you're starting with 0 and those numbers are not up to 8. Don't expect the stuff to return what you're expecting there, because it's going to do something else based on what I just explained right now. So another one that we have here is base 16, like that. So this one too, you start with 0x, then followed by your base 16 number. And as you can see, this is base 16 number here. So base 16 number is just 0 to 9 and this A to F. So this can be small letter or it can be in capital letter. As you can see here, it's small letter F, like that. And it's going to convert it to, once you use it in the console. For example, I have 0x, then I have AB, like that. And once I press enter, as you can see, so the 0x is a way of talking to JavaScript that whatever that follows it to is a base 16 number. Because here now you can't just type AB. This is error here. Because AB, it doesn't know what is AB. But once you start with 0x, so it will think everything that follows it is in base 16, like that. And in order for it to think it's base 16, you have 0 followed by x, then followed by whatever you have there. So if I put 17, this is on 17, because it will not think this one as 17, it will take it as base 16, because it's starting with 0x. If you just normal 17 you type, you get 17. If you type 017, you are not going to get 017, because this one now is in base 8. And again, if you type 0x17, this one too is not normal 17. This is in base 16. And as you can see that we are getting different results. Still the same 17, but the way you are using them matters. So when you're dealing with base 10, just type it normally like this. Don't add any 0 before it. If you want in base 16, then you have to start with 0x. If you want in base 8, you can start with a 0 by omitting the O in front of it, or you can add 0O, which is still going to be doing the same thing for you. So 0O17 like this. As you can see, this one is still the same thing as this one, and I prefer this short one because this one is just waste of typing, like that. So this is how all this number works. So all of them, they are number, but the one we are going to be using is just this base 10. But just in case you are dealing with anything that fall under all this one, you need to be careful, or you need to know how they work. But this is what we are going to be using. Or even this one said we are not going to be touching it like that. What we are going to be using is just all these basic number, like that. But if you are dealing with anything related to all this one, you need to know how they work, because this is how to represent base 16, base 8, base 2, base 10 is just normal stuff, like that. And this is all about number for now under JavaScript. So data type is how you represent your value. So all the value you are going to be using later on, these are different ways you are going to be representing them. And one of the value you are going to be using later on is number. For example, now when you are talking about age is a number. You have 2, 4, 5, 6, and so forth like that. And when you are talking about score, is a number too, and so forth like that. So there are different things you want to do on the page that number is their value, there like that. But it's not every time that what you want to do is just number. Most of them are always going to be text, like this one and like this paragraph that is here now. This is text. So how do we represent this text now in JavaScript? That's where the string comes in, like that. So we have string. String is text. String is text, but we have the way we use to represent them in JavaScript. You don't just type them anyhow, like that. So in JavaScript, we can use something known as a double, or let me just start with say single quotes. So when you want to create a string, you can use single quotes, like this. So we have the double quote, and again we have the backtick. These are different or three methods of representing this is completely for me now. Backtick. So we have a backtick like this. So these are different ways of representing text in JavaScript. So how do you represent using quotes? What that means is that whatever text you want to have, it must be inside a single quote like this. So this is a string. So this is a string. So when you want to represent text in JavaScript, we don't just type them, you must put them in a quote. When you want to deal with text in JavaScript, and that's the reason you see that this AB is throwing error. As you can see, because it's thinking this AB is something else. Can you see saying it's not defined? And what it's doing here is that it's thinking that the AB is a variable. When you get to the variable, you know more about it. That's what this thing is doing. It's thinking this your AB is a variable, and that's why he said the AB is not defined. And as you can see here, you're going to see how to define a variable later on. So that's this one is telling us that AB is not defined. But I'm not talking about AB, I'm talking about the text AB. So in order for JavaScript to know that this is not variable, this is normal text, you have to put it in a quote. So, and one of the quotes here is single quote. If I press enter, as you can see, there is no problem again. So it will take this one as just normal text. So in order for you to represent text in JavaScript, you either put it in a single quote or you put it in a double quote, like that. So it can be in a double quote, and at the same time it can be in a backtick. And this one, this backtick is different from quote too, so they are not the same. So the quote, this backtick is something that's on your keyboard. It's always beside one. Now all those number at the top of your keyboard, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth like that. So there is a key that comes before it, before number 1, and it's always below escape key. You are going to see that thing known as it have this symbol there, like that. So it have symbol like this on top of it. So what was wrong with this thing? This thing has gone back to UK. Let me change my keyboard back to US. So when you're in US keyboard, when you type it, it should, on your keyboard, you are going to see this tilde there. So we call it tilde. So that's the name of this symbol. So where you have this symbol, that's where that backtick is always is. So once you type it, you don't need to press shift. Once you just press it once, as you can see, the quote is facing back. That's why we call it back. As you can see, it's not the same thing as this. This one is straightforward, but this one is facing back. So this is what we call backtick here. So, and as you can see, it's still the same thing. So you can create your string by using backtick, or by using single quote, or by using double like this. So this is double quote. This double quote is not mean you are typing single quote twice. So know that is a key for that, to press the double quote on your keyboard there. So you find it on your keyboard and you are going to have it. So when you want to represent, or when you want to hold your string, or when you want to represent string in JavaScript, you can use single quotes, you can use backtick, and you can use double quotes. Any one of them will work. So, but you can't mix them together. If you start with double, you have to end with double. If you start with single, you have to end with single. If you start with backtick, you have to end with backtick. You cannot mix them. So any one of them you start with, that's what you are going to use to end. So here you can't just come now, you start with double and you now end with single. You get error because you are starting with double, you are now ending with single. So it will not treat this one as the closing one. This is opening, so it must close somewhere. So as you open, what you use to open is what you are going to use to close it. So you can go with any one of them, but there are some places that you are going to be using this backtick that you don't want to use all this one, because backtick makes things easier there. But for now, all of them can be used just to represent text, and that's the reason why you see that when I was using this my console, all my text, they are always in quotes, because in JavaScript, before you to treat it as a text, you must put it in a quote. But the quote you want to use is depending on you. The same thing here too, as you can see. When I want to type this hello word, you see that it is inside quote. But for the number here, I did not put it in a quote. And for this one, you see that this one too is not in the quote. And that's the one you see that this one is a string and this one is not. So this one will do normal mathematics. This one is not going to do normal mathematics for you. Once it's in a quote, it's this text. It will not treat it as number. Anything that is inside the quote is not number. Even if it is number that you type, it will not treat them as number like that. So 2 like this is just number 2, which is your normal number 2. But once it's in a quote, this is not 2 again. This is a string. This is text. This 2 here is not the same thing as the 2 here. So the first one here is number, while the second one here is string. So you should know the difference. When there is a quote there, that's text, and it's not going to work at your normal mathematics that you'll be expecting when you're using plus with it. And when it is not having quote, that's just your normal number there like that. So to represent text in JavaScript, we'll put them in a quote. But which quote, it now depends on you which one you want to use. So you can use the single one, you can use the double one, and you can use the back tick there like that. This is just all about the string, and as from this moment on, I will be using it. Something I've used already, as you can see them from here. Anytime you have text, you always put it in a quote. If you don't put it in a quote, you get error. So for example here now, maybe I want to output text to the console, and I just come here and I said console.log, and I just type this is console. This thing will not work because it will be thinking this thing is a variable. As you can see, the color is different. Yeah. So if I save it now, it will be looking for where this thing is being defined. And once you get to the screen, it will see that they are not defined anywhere. And since they are not defined anywhere, you see that we are going to get error in the console that we are trying to do something it doesn't understand like that. Once this thing is done saving, it's still loading, and once it's done saving there like that, it should bring out the thing on the screen. Why is it taking time to load? Oh, it's still saving here. Because of the nonsense that I type. As you can see, printer itself is complaining already, because the stuff is going to catch already before it gets to the screen there. Come outside, come outside, come outside. What's wrong with this? Yeah, so as you can see now, can you see syntax error? Because it's not seeing everything I have here as a text. In order for you to see that a text, you have to put it in a quote. But the quote you want to use is depending on you. You can use single, as you can see now. This one will work like that. And once I save, you see that I'm going to get a message, because now it's treating everything that is inside quote as a text. So in JavaScript, to represent text, you don't just type them the way you type it in the HTML code. Now in the HTML code, whatever you need the text, just type it the way you want it there. But yeah, we don't do it like that. You have to put it in a quote. Anytime you are dealing with text, it must always be in a quote, because in JavaScript, every other thing you are going to be using they are text. So how is it going to differentiate this one as normal string or is something that needs to be interpreted in JavaScript? So once you have things that is not in a quote, it will just interpret it as just normal JavaScript code. But once it's in a script or once in a quote, as you can see, it's going to take it as your normal string there. So as you can see here now, it will treat this one as string. It's not going to see it as JavaScript again. Once it's in a quote, it will treat it as a string, and as you can see, nothing is coming out as console because it's treating everything as string. As long as it's quote there, it's going to think it is a string. It will not take into your normal JavaScript code again. So if it's not string, then you don't put it in a code, and if it is text, you have to put it in a quote, and that's how it works here like that. So when you're dealing with text, you have to put them in a quote. But which quote, it don't depend on you. You can use any one of these, but you have to pick the correct one, or the one you start with, that's the one you are going to end with like that. And we have another type here, which is known as Boolean, and this one is something that you are going to be using later on to represent whether something is yes or no like that. So we have true or false. There's some stuff that you're going to be dealing with later on when we get to the operator in the next class here like that. You are going to see that the value you are getting back will either be true or false. So some of the value you are going to be interacting with later on will either be true or false. And true is what you guess when something is yes, or when something is okay, or when something is no. It's giving you positive answer there. You are always going to get true. But when it's giving you negative, or it is giving you another type of thing that is not true, then what you are going to guess is false. For example, here, let me show you one of the operator that we can use, which is this greater than here, that you can use to check whether something is greater than the other one. So if I put 7, as you can see here, it's bringing out false, because the question we're asking here is that is 3 greater than 7? What you get here is either yes or no. So if it is yes, that's true. But if it is no, then that's false. But the value, there's nothing like no or yes here. What you have is true and false. So if it is 7 greater than 3, you see that we are getting true. So this is Boolean value. We call them Boolean value. So the type of true and false is Boolean. So when you're dealing with Boolean, here you either get true or false, nothing else. And again, look at the way the true and false are here. or everything is in small letter. So when you're dealing with Boolean, everything too have to be small letter when you're using them as value later on. For example, here, if I put true here, I will go to get true. If I use false, I'm still going to get false. But this is nonsense. There is nothing like that in JavaScript. So if you type this one, as you can see, uncut. So in JavaScript, things have to be done properly in JavaScript. It's not like the HTML that you can type your tag in uppercase or in a small letter. Here now, I can put my tag in uppercase and it's still going to work. I can even mix them together by typing one of the T here in uppercase and leave the rest small letter. It will still work. But in JavaScript, you can't do that. So here, everything is case sensitive. In JavaScript, it is case sensitive, which means whatever this thing is expecting you to be small letter, you cannot type it in capital letter, or you mix them together. It will not work. The way it's expecting this from you, that's the same way you have to type it. If this way is what it's expecting from you, this is the way you have to be typing it every time. You can't type it another way. If you type it another way, it will think it's another thing entirely. And that's why this thing is a proper programming language. It's not like the HTML that you are doing basic stuff there. Here, this is a proper programming language. So you have to do things the way it's expecting you to do it. And if you do it the way you are not supposed to do, what you get is the error. And it will tell you, this is what you are doing. I don't want it. Do it properly. Until you do it properly, that's when it's going to do whatever you want it to do. It's not like the HTML that you can just mix things together. So here, things are case sensitive. So the way I'm typing them, that's the same way you're always going to type them. Not that because you now want to use at your side, now want to use true, you're not going to type it like this. This is wrong. Nothing like that. What we have is true, which is everything is in small letter like this. And the last two value that we have, the last one that we have here is this null and undefined there. So the last two that we have is this null and undefined, that you are going to get used to them later on when we get to the variable part. That's where you are going to start seeing them in action. Like that null now you are going to see in action when we get to part 8. But in the next class there, you are going to get used into that undefined. So undefined and null is what we use to represent no value. So they are used to represent that we don't really have value. So undefined is undefined, null is null, but they are there to represent nothing. That means you don't really know the type of the value that you are working with. But at some time, what you are expecting on the page might not be there. So if it is not there, what you get back will either be this undefined or null. So which means that thing you are looking for on the page is not there. So the value for that thing you are looking for is not there. So what you get back is either this undefined or null based on the method that you are using to get the element on the screen. So based on the methods you are using, it will either return this undefined or null, which are used to represent that we don't have nothing. So null or undefined are used to represent that this your stuff that you are looking for, it doesn't exist or it doesn't even have value at all. That's where you'll be getting this null or undefined that you are going to be seeing later on. But the one you are going to be working with most of the time, your number, especially this string, you work with it a lot because a lot of things you are going to have on the page, they are text. So you now want to have access to them. So they are going to come back as a string like that. And you know, when you are creating it yourself, you need to put them in a quote. If you don't create it yourself, you are getting it on the page. By the time you get to YouTube, the quote will be there automatically like that. But once you get to the page, on the screen, it will not have quotes. But in your own code, it have to have quotes. If the quote is not there, you get error. So from JavaScript, there won't be any quotes. But by the time you get to the page, later on when you see how to manipulate the content, you see that those quotes will not be there. It will just put the content the normal way. You don't need to care about the quote. But in your code, you must put it there like that. So this today is just all about introduction to what we are going to be doing. And in the next class here, we're going to start with our variables there like that. So today is all about what is JavaScript, how to include it on the page, and again starting with this our basic construct. And today we're able to talk about the types of value that we have in JavaScript there. Tomorrow or in the next class there, I'm going to be talking about variables. I'm going to be talking about operators, and at the same time we should get to this branching and looping, because I want to quickly move fast so that we can get to the real deal, which is where we're going to be manipulating the content on the page. So this is where we start manipulating things on a page, but first you must know all this basic one. This is not all, but these are the basic things you need before you start doing things at this side here, like that. So this is going to be all for today. I'm going to update the calendar and you see the next class there, and we'll be able to work on variables and the other one that we need for the next class there. That will be all for today. Any question? Let me stop recording.